Welcome to the ECG Podcast, a show where some East Coast buddies who have never met in person gather remotely once a week to talk about our love of video games and other shared interests. On this week, for February 12th, 2021, we are going to be talking about some major casting news for The Last of Us TV show from HBO. We're going to be talking about a big departure from The Mandalorian, and not a voluntary one. And we're going to be giving some impressions on some games we've been playing recently. We got some Hitman 3 impressions and the Medium impressions. So strap on in. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Waterman from Jacksonville, Florida. And this week I'm joined by Mr. Zach Cassell from Boston, Massachusetts. How's it going?
Fucking Brady.
How did I know that was coming? And from Baltimore, Maryland, we got Robbie Bobby Miller.
Hey.
And from last but not least, you're good, Bobby. We got Mr. George Ravelo from Miami, Florida.
What up?
Hi, fellas. So let's jump into Last of Us. So we know our Joel and Ellie, and it is going to be one Pedro Pascal for Joel. And then, we'll talk about them one at a time. So let's start with Joel, and we'll leave the audience in a little bit of suspense in case you've been living under a rock and you don't know who Ellie is. What is your initial reaction? 2 thumbs up from Zach.
Listen, Pedro Pascal can do no fucking wrong. Like, is there a bigger guy right now in like digital TV, streaming TV, like at all right now? Like, I mean, that guy, Narcos, the Mandalorian, I mean, obviously the Game of Thrones. Man, that guy is fucking talented. But
I also am very excited. I saw some clowns on the internet saying, like, what about the accent? As if this guy, like, won't have a dialogue coach and everything else, but
man, that didn't even cross my mind.
I know people are so stupid.
Hey, I'm Hispanic. I've got an accent, and it crossed my mind. I think it's normal. Like, you just see him in other kinds of roles, and I don't think it's so much his accent, but Joel's accent. You get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, Texas.
It's very thick. I don't think it's so much that, because nobody thought anything weird about when he's playing in Narcos or the Mandalorian, but they just seem so distinct from Joel. I think that's where that comes from. I don't think it's that, but dude, that guy has earned everything that's been thrown his way, and if there's one person that deserves blind trust that he's going to do a good job, it's this guy.
I don't even if you look at Troy Baker. I'm just saying, based off looks and then voice, like, you would never in a million years assume that Troy Baker is the one doing Joel, right?
Sure.
So, like, I feel like even because he does have an accent and everything, I feel like he'll just be able to maybe even use that to whatever to like accentuate Joel's accent. I mean,
and even if he doesn't have a Texas accent, is that going to be the end of the world? Like, no,
yeah,
I don't,
because the game
so.
starts off right in Boston, so I mean, you could just have him from Boston.
Well, it starts off in Texas, and then there's the jump like after that, like, and then yes, you're in Boston, but I mean, if they wanted to keep like him, like, I guess, like, with like a Hispanic accent, like, they could do
Joel.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Why not? Who gives a shit, man?
I mean, yeah, it doesn't. But like, there's plenty of Hispanic people in Texas, like, which is, I don't think, a surprise to anybody. Like, so it doesn't really matter. I think he's got the acting chops. Like, he's shown that he can be vulnerable, that he can be tough. Like, I think it's a really, really cool, inspired choice. I was on board when the rumors were spiraling up yesterday that Mahershala Ali was going to be Joel. I was fine with that. That was for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours was flying around, and then they officially announced that it was Pedro Pascal. So I would have been fine with that too, truthfully. I just want somebody that I know can act, like, to take on a role that's beloved, and past that, like, it all comes down to the writing and direction, right? And obviously the production value.
Yeah, dude, I really, I'm on the same boat as you. I heard about the stuff about Mahershala Ali, and at first I was like, that's odd, but then I was like, you know what? I don't care. Like, it's a video game movie. It doesn't need to be everything the same. Like, you could even change the name of the character, but you just give me that kind of story, and I'd be fine with it. Like, it should be entertaining. Either way, man. Like, I'd rather get a quality cast than you trying to cast people that you think fit a certain look, that are going to cater to it. Because let's be honest, the majority of people that could potentially end up watching this, given it's on HBO, are not even going to be people who played the game. There'll be a lot of people who did play the game, but if this show is a massive hit, right? Most of them are not going to play the game. So I don't see an issue with it, man. I think he's gonna do a great job. Accent, no accent, who gives a shit, man? Whatever spin he puts on it, I'm cool with it, man.
And the look of somebody is such a small part of acting, right? Like, really, I mean, when it comes down to it, like, the acting is not just do you look the part, right? It's a lot deeper than that. Bobby, what did you think of Pedro Pascal being cast as Joel? I know you weren't so hot on Last of Us Part 2, but you loved the first game, right?
Yeah, I love the first one. I wish the second one didn't exist, but it's always going to be a 6 out of 10 for me, and it should never got Game of the Year.
All right, let's stay on track there, buddy.
Okay.
Am I better, by the way?
Yeah, you're better, Zach.
Cool.
My thing is it's hard for me. I think he's great as an actor, but it also ties into the Gina Carano thing. Yeah. So I'll save my opinion until we get to that.
On Joel, okay, interesting. So let's do a little let's talk about the other casting choice. Then I want to do a little bit of speculation, a little bit of tinfoil hatting here. So Bella Ramsey, who a lot of people know as what was her name? Something Stark. Mormont. Yeah, no, not Stark. Mormont. Cast as Ellie. She was a breakout for me in Game of Thrones. I loved like her attitude. Like, she had such intensity. Like, I don't think I've ever seen that kind of intensity come from a child actor and be so convincing. And she
commanded the screen.
She was great. And not like I'll add like amongst like small bit actors either. Like, she was in the room with heavies during certain scenes and still like held her own. So
I don't plan on knitting by the fire while men fight for me. She's fucking great, man.
I think she's a fantastic choice as well. And I can't wait to see their chemistry on screen together. Bobby, what do you think about the choice for Ellie? Do you like?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I think that'll be great. I think both of them will be fantastic. To be honest, as long as they don't have anything to do with the second movie or second game.
Yeah, we'll get to that because that's gonna be one of my. That's gonna be one of my questions, or we can just transition unless somebody wants to add, anything.
No, I think she's great. Like, if in like a perfect world, if this was made quite some time ago, Ellen Page obviously would fit. Well, excuse me, Elliot Page. Now that he's transitioned, would have made like a perfect, acting chops and the look. Like, I mean, I used to think that was Ellie, honestly, but
well, she try to sue them, right, for her likeness? Like,
it looked just like her, right?
He tried to sue. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm still adjusting to the. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could have sworn after I played the first game, when I always look up the cast after, especially for games like that, and I was so convinced that it was. I was like, oh, the girl from Juno, right? The girl from Juno. And I'm like, it's not. Oh shit! Well, not even her, like the the body or actor, whatever. But yeah,
motion capture, yeah.
Yeah, but I think this it's a good cast. She obviously has that talent, and yeah.
She'll be the right age too by the time they get production spun up too. Like, I think she'll be like the perfect.
She's like 17, but she looks very young. You know, so it should be good, man.
So that leads me to like my question for the speculation time. I don't know if they've announced if it's a limited series or what. Like, do you think that there will be like that they will either tell Last of Us Part 2 if this is successful or like spin it off? Like, do you think like?
Man, I feel The Last of Us 2 is like very sprawling, right? Like, that game's how. I mean, I guess we'll have to see how the first one.
You could easily chop that into 2 seasons, by the way.
That's what I was gonna say. It would definitely if it was going to go to the second game, the second game would probably have to be split into 2 series just because of how the game.
I personally like. I'd want to see like an anthology type thing. Like, I sometimes I wish shows. I mean, I understand because money's involved, and if the show's a hit, they're gonna squeeze out of it, squeeze as much as they can out of it. But I'd like to see shows, especially things that are like makes of coming off of a book or a video game like this, just be like a limited series, like a mini series, either like a 1 season thing, a 2 season thing. Tell us a story. If you want to do spin-offs and side stuff, like anthology style, that would be cool. But I'd personally hate to see the Last of Us, whether you do part 1 and part 2 or whatever, turned into like an 8 season show, 10, 15 episodes a year. Like I wouldn't want to see that, but
I'd be on board with them doing 2, but like not a spinoff, because I'd fear that it would turn into like The Walking Dead basically. And like, I don't want that. Like, I don't want it to be like a never-ending cycle of like miserable stories like in that world, like over and over again. I feel like get out while the getting's good. What were you saying, Zach? I'm so sorry I cut you off, but
no worries at all. I was just saying, luckily HBO is pretty good about not extending series past their
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the only one. But like look at
Sopranos.
Well, yeah, Sopranos didn't was not too long, was it?
6 seasons.
6 seasons, yeah.
With the final 2 were split.
Watchmen, I think, is over. Chernobyl, over.
But they wanted to do more. Damon Lindelof said no. Like, absolutely, he's like, you guys can do more, but not without me. Like, so that they do respect the creative vision, right? Like, they were like, well, we only want to do it with you because like you told such a good story. But yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they have a few shows that are not super long, and I just feel, yeah, The Last of Us is perfect for 1 or 2 seasons, at most 3 if you're gonna split that the second game. But yeah, just ideally tell like a Chernobyl, like self-contained awesome story.
Let me pose this question to you guys. Pedro Pascal is essentially going to be the lead, right? In this, does that say anything about the Mandalorian or this show or the future of either of these shows? Like, could we theoretically have him playing the lead in 2 simultaneous shows at the same time in the same year? It seems like a tall task. It's not common.
I know there's going to be a time jump in the Mandalorian. I don't know how that's going to affect the character, but I mean, he is the titular character of the Mandalorian, right? And they've already said that like the next chapter, like that they reveal with like the Book of Boba Fett is like its own show, so it's not going to be like, you could see it being a graceful exit if they were like, well, it's still called the Mandalorian, but now it's about Boba Fett for a couple of seasons. But apparently they're not doing that. I think it would be difficult, and it would point to maybe it being more of like likely for it to be a limited series, because it's like filming a movie essentially, where he knows that even if it is a bit grueling for a year, it's just the 1 year and he doesn't have to come back and do it again. And honestly, I'm going to give a spoiler alert here, but if they were to do, so spoiler alert for Last of Us 2, if they were to do Last of Us 2, he's probably dead the first episode anyway, like if he came back to do that. So
right. That makes sense. That's because, as I feel like, I don't think you can run them both concurrently, and I think it's more likely that the HBO series is going to be not something that's intended to be that expansive. Because while I could totally see a scenario in which the Mandalorian starts to ride off into the sunset. I mean, literally all those billion shows that they announce, they circulate around the Mandalorian timeline. So it seems like he's going to be very much involved in a lot for at least a few years with the Disney stuff. So
yeah, you can bet your bottom dollar that there's going to be crossovers. With as successful as the MCU's been, and they've got that Star Wars universe, anything that's concurrent, you're going to have cameos and things like that for sure. Okay, anybody want to add anything to The Last of Us? Speculate anything like that? I mean, we got probably a good 12 months of like pre-production and stuff to kind of talk about as it comes out, so we don't need to.
Is it like, have they confirmed it, like they're telling the story of the first game? Like, is that like, I would assume it has to be, right? Like, there's no, if you're having those 2 characters, like
as far as like beat for beat, I don't know if it's gonna, but like, I mean, if they're doing that, well, here I'll look it up.
Shows do flashbacks and then rewinds. like.
I mean, I'm
logs.
sure they can add a few of their own little, things in there to give it their own flair, but
Maybe
I
they
feel
give
like
it
the
a better
overarching
ending for the
story
second
has
one.
to be relatively the same.
So from January 26th, let's look and see.
Oh man, I should not have drank this whole thing. Bang.
Is that good? I keep hearing about that.
I love it mostly because it's got nothing, dude. It's 0, 0, 0, 0 everything. All
okay.
it has is a little bit of sodium. That's it. Everything
Yeah,
else
I
is
drink the
zeros.
white monsters. They're the same, but everybody keeps telling me Bang's
These
better.
they have so many flavors and they're so fucking good.
We're not sponsored by Bang.
So
We are-
Holly,
But if you want to sponsor us, you've got a spokesperson
you
right
go.
here.
hey,
Yeah.
my brother who doesn't listen to the podcast at least gave us a shout out to. There was who was it? Some company that always does podcast ads. Maybe it was Manscaped was asking like, what small podcast should we like, even unknown, like should we? And he gave us a shout out
I'm
on
the
Twitter.
perfect body type for those commercials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So yeah, the Hollywood Reporter in the initial announcement of the show says, I quote, the HBO series will cover the events of the original game, which was written by Druckmann, with the possibility of additional content based on the forthcoming game sequel. So that's from the official announcement of the Hollywood Reporter. So there you go. All right. So some other casting news that we got involved an exit from Gina Carano, fired from The Mandalorian and all subsequent Star Wars projects for, I think, quote, abhorrent remarks or something like that. I'll find the exact quote there.
Yeah, that's basically her comments were abhorrent, is what Lucasfilm exec said.
So one Mandalorian star gets a new show and one Mandalorian star loses all of her shows, including future shows. This was not a surprise at all. I was surprised it didn't come sooner. I think off mic we talked a little, George, like this may have been in the pipeline in December. I think they didn't want to distract from like the Mandalorian while it was on TV, like those being the headlines about the show, but the quote is, Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm and there are no plans for her to be in the future. Nevertheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their culture and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable. So that was their press release on the termination of their relationship with Gina Carano. But yeah, it wasn't a surprise to me. Like, this has been picking up steam for quite a while. And, whether you believe or not, like that, they live by their core values or whatever, like their public facing core values for, Disney includes diversity and inclusion, as a pretty big part of their core values. And ever since the beginning of Hollywood, pretty much, if you step on the foot of the golden goose, like you're blacklisted, like if you're toxic, and I don't mean that in like the modern sense, but like if you're toxic to the brand, like you're fucking out of there. And there was too much negative press. Regardless of how you feel about what she said or whether or not she should have been terminated, like this is not a new concept in entertainment by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I want to get out the elephant in the room, which is the people that the apologists that come out to defend people that make these kind of comments, right? They talk about suppression, freedom of speech, and all this shit. And let me just make something really clear to all those people who are on that side of the fence. She has the right to say and think all of these things, all right? She's not going to jail for any of these things. She's not being arrested or persecuted for any of these things, all right? However, with that said, like there are consequences for the things that you say and do, right? Whether you're a public figure or not. If I behave like that, I could lose my job. If I could say things like that.
I was going to say our company that we work for the same company would definitely fire our asses if we were on Twitter saying stuff like
dude, yes, you have the right to say that, but the employer has the right to, if they're not in line with what you believe and you're not that they don't have to employ you. She is being employed by Disney or by any company is not a fucking right. It's a privilege, right? They don't need you more, like you need them probably. So, let me just get that out of the way, right? And it's one thing to have your beliefs, right? Like, whatever. Unfortunately, in this world, there's a lot of bigoted people who think in dated ways, and that's fine. But the moment that you start spewing that shit out, right? Like acting like that's the way that you're supposed to think and trying to spread that nonsense. That's a different story, man. If you want to think that way, then keep it to yourself. If you want to keep your job, you know, if you want to continue to be ignorant, then shut the fuck up. And if you want to throw it out there, then there's going to be consequences for your actions. This did not start with this shit here, man. Like this is like I think this began when somebody asked some of the cast of the Mandalorian to put their preferred gender pronouns, right? And Pedro Pascal, the star of the fucking show, put his preferred pronouns: his, him,
He, him, yeah.
yeah, he, him, his, right?
Mhm.
And then her response was putting beep, boop, bop, like a robot and shit, like basically mocking that kind of stuff. And I understand if you're one of those people who doesn't believe in that kind of stuff or disagrees with it, fine, just keep it to yourself, but don't mock people, man. Don't insult people who go through a lot of difficult things just to gain acceptance in this world, man. Just respect everybody, even if they're different. Don't mock people, don't be rude. And then of course the comments that she said now, like, come on, comparing being a conservative in America, or was it a Republican in America, that being taken to a Jewish person during the Holocaust. Get the fuck out of here, man. Like ugh. I didn't want to repeat those fucking comments, but it's so fucking stupid, man. Like it's fucking dumb.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, well, however you feel about it, and I'm very much in your camp, George. Like I'm not gonna retread the same thing. You pretty much hit the nail on the head for me as well. Your employer has standards, and to some extent, you can be held to them. Even like when you're not on the clock, right? Like if it makes the company look bad, that's just the way it is. Like again, our job, it goes beyond even social media stuff. Like if you or I were to get a DUI, like we could potentially lose our license for what we do. Like there's a lot of consequences for what you do outside of your place of business. And it's not a new concept. So, and it's not unique to show business, certainly. But Zach or Bobby, I'll let you guys weigh in if you want to talk.
Yeah, you guys pretty much said it all. Like we don't need to give her any. Well, personally, I don't think we need to give her any more time of day. To tell you the truth, she sucks.
Fair enough. Agreed. Fair enough.
Bobby, you had some comments. You were holding off on some Last of Us comments for this. I'm curious.
Yes. Besides my hatred for the second game, see, my thing is Gina Carano. The sad part is Carano. Sorry,
that's okay. I do the same. I do the same thing. Yeah, they're two names.
Yeah, I think that. Well, first of all, I think she's nuts with the whole Trump thing. Anyway, but I feel like there's a lot of misinterpretation in what she was trying to say. Not saying that all of her other stuff was correct, because she's been spouting some crazy shit for a long time. But the thing is, yes, she should have been fired. A lot of people don't understand that. Yeah, she should have been fired because you signed a contract, and I'm pretty sure in that contract, Disney don't mess around. You can't start spouting that shit. See, this is my problem with what's his name, Pedro Pascal. Is he didn't have horrible comments, but he did have comments about comparing people, Republicans, to Nazis and stuff as well. But I'm not saying that. See, that's why I'm saying I love that he would be in.
You want to get the exact quotes on that, because I don't want to put something out on YouTube if we're not 100% sure that that's exactly what he said.
Comparing,
you could
movies and other things.
You can work on it. You can Google it, but like it just.
Yeah, because I do want to.
Like I'm saying, I feel like this is what I hate about the world, is there's a double standard for everyone.
I don't know that there's much of a double standard. I think sometimes people want to compare apples to oranges when it comes to things. Like you look at James Gunn's a great example of somebody that was fired and subsequently rehired by Disney. The way that he handled the situation. Yes, I made these insensitive comments. Like, yes, I'm sorry for it. Like, this was wrong. It was also a long time ago. Yeah. Like, people can grow. The difference in the response.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, I was just saying the difference in the response, where she's essentially doubled down, and if anything,
that's my thing. Is that's why she should have 100% been fired. Like Pedro at least apologized. Like he felt, bad about some of his comments, apologizing to some people. But the fact that she has no regrets, no anything. That just
Yeah.
shows what type of person
Look,
she is.
Look, man. People have been calling to be canceled for
Yeah.
for like literally, I think since the end of the first season of The Mandalorian, when she obviously became more
She started
prominent
with that
and
voting
started
crap.
saying
Yeah.
this stuff, right? The QAnon, and I think she had comments on the Capitol riots, right? Like that's the thing, is like people can make mistakes, people can grow, or people can just learn how to compose themselves better, right? Like, hey, even if you still believe that way, kind of keep it to yourself, because these are the consequences, right? But no, it's just like there's one thing after another with her. It was just, at first it was the thing with the the transgender people, then it's this conspiracy theories, then anti-vax or anti-mask, then the Capitol riots, and now this. I don't think she was fired because of this particular comment. It's like, dude, and they put up with a bunch of shit, and I don't know if this is confirmed or not, but I think part of it is that John Favreau, he's like very like apolitical, like he just doesn't care one way or the other, and that's my understanding, and that's probably why she's been on as long as she has, right?
Yeah.
But at some point, like, dude, like I mean, somebody's had to have talked to her, right? Like if she needs
most definitely.
I'm sure she's had talking to, and you continue to do this, like you're not learning, and you're clearly not adhering to the standards that this company has set. Right, like Disney can be a lot of things, but inclusive is certainly one of them, right? Like their acceptance of people, they've done a lot to contribute to that kind of thing, to inclusivity, diversity. Like, come on, like you cannot continue to behave that way and still think that you're going to represent that company, especially as your character gets more and more popular. So, hey, fool me once, fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And this is like not even twice. This is like 6-7 times already. Like that's enough. Like learn, grow up, or just shut up. One of the two, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of examples, and we can move on here in a second. Of I think people that were like quote unquote canceled, like in the temporary, that kind of bounced back, right, and grew and learned. Like look at Aziz. Apparently, Master of None's coming back. He had a rough year during the initial wave of like Me Too stuff, and he took ownership of the story that came out about him, and he bowed out and did some reflecting, and like you may agree or not agree that he should be allowed to have his show back, but I think you can definitely agree with the difference in how that was handled, right? And like why a company would be willing to give somebody a second chance in that scenario versus this, where it's like
Yeah, and I feel bad for her. I do. I used to watch her when she was a fighter. I liked her in Deadpool, Haywire. Like I like seeing her career, and then just as I've gotten to know what kind of person she is, it's upsetting. It's sad. I hope she gets a second chance. I hope she gets an opportunity, and I hope she takes some time to grow, because what, maybe she's not like the greatest actor in the world, award-winning actress. Like she brought this character to life, and I like this character, man. Cara Dune was a lot of fun in The Mandalorian, and it's a shame. And sometimes you have to lose something so that you can value what you had, and she really cost herself big, and not in terms of just money, but exposure. Like, come on, man. Like she I mean, that character was so much fun that she probably could have had her own spin-off show. Like geez, this is just dumb. And the fact that she had to have known all of this stuff when she just didn't care, that just shows a lot of character flaws just beyond bigotry, right? Like you just have no regard for the shit that you're saying or doing.
Self-preservation, it's one of those things, man.
If nothing else, just shut up. Keep it to yourself. You're too big of a figure now to continue to spout that shit.
Like when you or I are at work, like there's plenty of things that like if we were tethered and like amongst our friends that we would like say, right? Like not offensive stuff necessarily, but like I cuss, obviously, if you listen to this podcast quite a bit, but at work I can't just say, well, like it's my right to like say fuck and cunt and pussy and all this stuff, like and
right.
But guess what, my employer is gonna go like, here's your disciplinary action. I do it again, here's your disciplinary action, and probably like sorry, like we have to let you go because you're not adhering to our core values and respecting the other people you work with.
And we'll leave the topic with this: like your rights do not come at the expense of other people, never, in no point. So
no. All right, so let's jump into some game impressions. Zach, I'll give you the option. Do you want to talk the medium first, or would you like George and I to talk a little bit of Hitman 3 action? What is your preference, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, I'll blow it out real quick. So I've already beaten the game, and I really enjoyed it. I would personally give it like an 8, or maybe like an 8.5. I'm not the biggest fan of the fixed camera, although I get why they do it. I definitely see how it adds to the tension and all that. And it's kind of the controls, going around a corner and everything with those fixed cameras. You kind of got to readjust yourself and everything.
So really quick, can you summarize what the game, like without spoilers, what the game is for maybe listeners that don't know, like aren't familiar with the medium?
Yeah. So what it is you play as a medium, and she has powers where she can like pretty much have access to the spirit world, or it's pretty much like limbo almost. And she is drawn to a certain place from a phone call, and you get to this place, and then you have to unravel the mystery of this place, and you do that in the spirit world and the real world, and sometimes you do it in both at the same time. Which is pretty cool. So you're trying to solve a mystery in one part of the world, but something in the spirit world maybe blocking you, or vice versa. And yeah, I just thought the performances were really good. I think the mob was incredible. Troy Baker, you can't even tell that it's him. Obviously, he just like a super unique monster design, and not design, but like just the way he talks to you, like what he's saying to you and everything is just eerie. And yeah, it's not too heavy on gameplay. Like you're not really, there's not too much like action or anything. You gotta like blast away a few things, but it's mostly just picking up stuff, reading, trying to fill in the pieces of the story, and just environmental storytelling. And there's some cheesy dialogue and everything in there, because she's by herself. You're by yourself the whole time. So
How long is it? How long is it, more or less?
It was maybe like 8 hours. It's not too long. I was talking to some people who beat it in one sitting.
Wow.
So, but yeah, story and everything is really good. Gameplay is, like I said, it's definitely the weak portion of the game, but I think the story and the performances are good enough to I don't want to say chug through, because the gameplay is not like bad. It's just not the best.
Yeah, I played Layers of Fear, which they made as well, and that has zero action, like no combat. It's all kind of like just like spooky. On a scale of 1 to 10, like where are we on the spooky meter? I know that's a taste thing to some extent, but like, or like a tolerance thing. But
I would say I would put it maybe at like a 7.
Okay, so pretty spooky.
It's more. It's not. I don't want to say it's scary more than it is like
unsettling.
Yeah, pretty much. That's a good word for it. Yeah, that's
nice, because that Layers of Fear, like there were some jump scares, but mostly I found that like to be unsettling. It was more of like the dread of like what could happen most of the time versus like what actually like did, and they used that to pretty good effect. Like
yeah, because the maw will be invisible a lot of the time, so like you don't know where he is, and if he catches you, you're dead.
When you keep saying the maw with your Boston accent, like I think like ma, like like it's like it's like the mom, like so the maw is like MAW. I'm assuming is how it's spelled.
That is correct.
Yeah, cool. All right.
But yeah, it's cool. It's I mean, I probably, it's it's awesome that it's on Game Pass, because I don't think I would have paid for the game, but like, yeah, man, on Game Pass, like great deal.
Yeah, free. The low price of free. Yeah. I mean, that's the story of Game Pass games. I feel like most of the time it's like there's so many that it's like I probably wouldn't have, but because it was there, like that was enough to overcome that like barrier to entry. I definitely want to check it out. It looks great. Like when I say great, like it looks like a fun like diversion. It doesn't strike me as a game that will be like one of the all-time greats or anything like that, but certainly looks like it's worth the ride. George is a big old chicken. Are you gonna play it, George? Is 7 too scary for you?
Yeah. I'm gonna give it a go because like I was intrigued by the game, and there's not a ton of next gen stuff out there and free. I mean, I got nothing to lose if I shit myself, and that's the end of that. So.
Man, the other world, like the spirit world that you go to and everything is looks so cool. Like you could, it's cool seeing like they managed to like completely render both at the same time. So like,
right.
That's why they said I think they couldn't put it on the Xbox One as well, but it's really cool.
Cool.
How about you, Bobby? Do you like scary games?
I love them, but every single time I try to play it, my daughters kept coming downstairs. And they already know that I have a fear of ghosts. And then they kept seeing it, and they were like, "Daddy, don't play it. It's just going to give you nightmares." So I've been hesitant because I don't mess with ghosts. Like I could, serial killer comes in the house, I can at least fight you off.
But Paranormal Activity, you are.
Yeah, but Paranormal Activity. The first time I saw it, my wife went back to her parents' house, and then I sat in the parking lot around. I'm choking up trying to talk about it. I sat in the parking lot waiting until we could go back home because I was like, "Nah, I need a moment. Like, I don't mess with ghosts."
So, quick thing before we move on to the next topic, I went and looked up what Bobby was referring to, so we just make sure we're not misquoting anything. So what Pedro Pascal did was he had posted a picture, supposedly saying it was saying it was like a graphic, and it said losers in 1865 and a picture of the Confederate flag, losers in 1945 a picture of the Nazi flag, and losers in 2020 and then a MAGA hat. That's what I think he had what he had posted. Gotcha. I didn't see anything necessarily about an apology. I couldn't find anything, an apology from his end or anything like that. I could see where the interpretation is that he was comparing them, but I think he was just calling them all losers. That said, I still don't think it compares anything to the stuff.
Well, the thing I'll send it in the chat now. I don't want to see. My thing is, I just, if people are wrong, they're wrong. I just want everybody to be held. Like politicians, I think all of them are stupid, to be honest. I told my wife I was just going to start running against people that are unopposed because I think that's ridiculous. That no one wants to run unopposed. I mean, I'll have no platform. I'll just stand there and never say anything. But I don't think anyone should ever run unopposed. See the quote, the thing I sent in the chat. I don't know if it popped up, but it was his picture of
I see
kids from Nazi Germany, and then comparing it to the kids that were being taken, which is it's both. I mean, it happened during two different presidencies, but I think it's horribly wrong. I don't think any parent like me I would never ever in my lifetime want to be separated.
Yeah.
But it seems like comments like that, which he deleted and apologized for, his tweet, it's kind of a double standard, but it's not. But that's like I said, I love the
again.
guy.
I think it's the response for something like that. Like everyone says dumb shit on the internet, like at some point, like it's inevitable. Like if you have a social media presence, like, or you've ever been in a Call of Duty lobby, even like people say dumb shit, like
Warfare lobby.
Yeah.
You log in the bottom left, it's all kinds
of. It's what you do when you're called on it, especially when somebody's trying to.
That was my biggest point. Is I appreciated that, like Pedro knew that there was something wrong with that, and then apologized for it, and then everything moved on, and he's been fine. But Gina just, man, she needs to.
And I didn't want to get it restart that conversation. I just wanted to make sure we weren't misquoting.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, we want to have journalistic integrity for our 100 listeners or whatever. So yeah, moving on to Hitman 3. Yeah, so that's the next game. George, even though I know you restarted you did a full mission, which is I think enough to kind of give your impressions, because that is largely what the flavor of the game is like. I will say, having played the second mission, it's radically different than the first in terms of environment and what it feels like to move around and what you're doing. So I've never played a Hitman game prior to this in the new saga. I played, I think, Hitman 2 on PlayStation 2 back in the day and liked it, but I don't think I had the patience to play stealth games in my early teens. So inevitably, like, I would try to be stealthy or sneaky and would end up usually just going balls out most of the time in that game. Whereas in this, like, I think, I'll say is like one of the most wonderfully creative sandboxes I've ever experienced, like as far as like a stealth game. It's very dense levels where you can approach an assassination in a lot of different ways, and they're almost always like hilarious. Like, I think, like, like when they play out, it's satisfying but often funny. Sometimes it's not funny, but a lot of times it is, depending on what choices you make. And there's a replayability there that's really great. Like George said that, when he had played the first mission, he thought he'd done something wrong because he found another story, is what they're called, within the mission. And what those are essentially is, like, let's say that I'm going to make up an assassination, so I'm not spoiling the game at all here. Like, let's say that, there's an assassination that were to take place in a restaurant. And one of the options was to, like, disguise yourself as a cook and poison the food. And, like, that's how you kill the targets, right? Well, maybe in that restaurant, there's like a stage where there's like a show. And if you want to do it the other way, like, it might be that you disguise yourself as an entertainer and you throw a flaming kebab like Indiana Jones into the dude's chest. Like, it plays out completely differently. The steps to accomplish those two things are in completely different parts of the restaurant, and like your cutscene and the reactions to the assassination, very, very different. So I'm really liking it. The second mission in particular was a standout for me. I won't say anything other than, it had like Agatha Christie and like Knives Out vibes, and that was one possible thing you could do. And once I realized that was a possibility, I was like, this is definitely how I'm going to do this assassination, because it's fucking awesome. And it took me like 2 hours, and there's definitely solutions that I came across where I was like, oh, I bet you that's like significantly shorter. So I'm loving it. Like, I think it's a fantastic game. Like, I think it deserves the 9s and 9.5s that I've been seeing for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've enjoyed it. I haven't I played I did, I guess the only thing different than you is I did play the full training mission 1 and 2, which is kind of like a full mission, really. So that was interesting. I also did not play 1 and 2. I like that you can approach the missions or the levels in a number of different ways. Like Chris said, you can play the stealthy, like what is maybe the canonic version of how that would go, like a very professional, clean assassination, or you can be ridiculous, like you can shove someone's face in the toilet and drown them. Like if you want to do that, you could poison everybody. Like, you could do it any which way you want. You can take people out, you can knock them out. And to Chris's point about some stealth games where you need a lot of patience, like, I feel like this game's pacing is really good with that, because your traditional like Splinter Cell games, or even if you want to play stealthy in Ghost of Tsushima or some Assassin's Creed games, you have to move very slow, stay in cover. And this game is not like that, because there is some of that, but there's also a lot of blending in. Think more, if you guys remember back in the day, those like Mission Impossible games, like PS1, I think, man, they were like pretty cool. It's more like that, where there's different aspects to it, so that the game it doesn't feel like you're just hiding the whole time, but you can also run and do little things like that make it kind of speed up and give you a nice change of pace. So I think it's done well. I have not criticisms, but just a couple of things to keep in mind if you're on the fence on the game, right? Because I've never played a Hitman game. So some people don't like replaying missions, right? I'm not typically a replay person, but this is the game's foundation, is to replay stuff. So if you don't replay missions, I'd argue you won't get your money's worth. You're going to have maybe a 5 or 6 hour game, and that's it. If you just want to play it, finish just to beat the level and you're done. If you're not replaying them, you're not getting a ton out of the game. So unless you're okay with spending $60 for a 5-6 hour game,
don't pick. It's not going to be your thing because the whole thing is to replay it. Um, and then the other thing to point out, and this is more criticism. Sorry, who made this game? Who developed this game?
IO Interactive.
IO. Holy shit! You guys could not have done a more piss poor job at attracting people who've never played a Hitman game. Like, holy shit! Like, you could have not made this any more difficult. For like, I'd consider myself and Chris to be pretty hardcore gamers. Like, we played a lot of games, veteran gamers, and you made this so complicated because like it includes 1, 2, and 3, but only 1 and 2 if you owned it before. And if you want to have it, and like you can import your progress, but if you play the third and then you import your progress later, it'll wipe the progress of the third. And like,
yeah, there's some clunky like tech
I gotta
stuff.
pay like $90 to add the content from 1 and 2. Like, I don't know. So much so that like me and Chris opted to just play the third game and just we'll figure it out later. Which is a shame because it seems like I'm missing out a good chunk. First, I don't know what the hell's going on with the story, right? Other than whatever it caught me up to, but it should be much simpler and much easier to pick up the game from the third installment. And I think it should be much cheaper to access the first and second level.
Yeah, it's still $90 on place. I know Adam said it was $30 on Xbox right now for the gold, which has like 2 and 1. But yeah,
unreal.
It's a very steep and like that's your chance to, in my opinion, like that's your chance to sell copies of 2 and 1. Your best chances right now. Like, hey, you could get 3 for $60, but if you want to shell out another $30 or $40, we'll give you 1 and 2 and all the content. Like, I feel like it's a huge missed opportunity. Like, because what did you and I do? Like, we're like, well, we'll just play like 3 and see how we like it. Like, maybe we'll have our fill at that point, and like, it's money saved. Whereas like the impulsive part of both of us would have probably leapt at that deal if it was like reasonably priced. But like,
for sure, like if 2 people who are essentially game sharing thought it wasn't worth it, what do you think the average person is gonna, or worse, it's gonna turn somebody off? Like, because most people aren't gonna pick up a game on its third installment and jump into it. But if you sold a good package that included all of them, hell, it could have just been $30 for the first 2, or charge you, the new next gen price of $70 and include the first 2 the first 1 and 2's levels, and maybe not the skins and some of the extra content. You could sell that on the side. But yeah, like you could have done a much better job at bringing people up to speed than this, because yeah, you potentially lost some sales right here between us. And if you're losing them against hardcore gamers, like people who are much more casual are definitely not going to pick that up. So I think they definitely struck out with that in particular. But this game is very good. Very fun. I am excited to continue to play it.
How'd you like that entrance in the first level? That was fucking epic, wasn't it? Like,
hell yeah! I was like, and I'm like, and then it explained things because I'm like, how do they not see me in the fucking window? And then you see that there's like, you're in a certain window where there's nothing to see through. So, but yeah,
you can see why they're going to be great with a James Bond game too, right? Like doing that opening level, I was like, yep, I'm sold. Do the James Bond game. It's going to be fucking awesome.
What a great segue. I don't know. Sorry to sneak in a topic, but am I the only one who saw that 2-hour footage of the GoldenEye game? That was
I saw it like bits and bobs of it. I did not watch all 2 hours, but I watched like a good bit of it. It was cool.
Oh, what a damn shame. I think it was like 2013 or something like that. Where they had that. What a damn shame that wasn't remade, because man, that would, God, what kind of numbers that would do. Then
I don't know about now so much, but like
it still would.
I think the window. I mean, for people like our age group, like maybe, but like, yeah.
I think it could be like a Pokemon Go thing where it's like freaking huge for a month and then it.
Hey! I still go.
I know a lot of people do that. That game makes money hand over fist.
But you can't compare, like, nothing. I don't think anything will top the craze of the first couple months that game was out. Like, that was insane. You couldn't go outside.
But once people started getting killed, that's when it went down a little bit.
But that would be great for Game Pass or something like that. That would be so much fun.
So since you threw out a little factoid, a little side bit, I'm going to throw out a little 60-second side bit. Would you guys believe me if I told you that the best year for sales for Grand Theft Auto 5 was 2020?
I think you mentioned this, actually.
I did.
That's crazy.
No, I just saw the factoid today.
Didn't someone say that? I don't know where I heard that, but yeah.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know, but like, yeah, that was something I saw today where I was like, wow, like really, like shit.
And those are the people that I blame for another Grand Theft Auto not having come out yet, because you guys keep buying this shit, man. Like, if you guys stop buying this shit, stop putting money into it, they're gonna pump out another one. Why would they pump out another?
It's not going to slow down the pace at all. I mean,
it's an early access game at this point,
dude. Yeah, it's insane. But that's crazy. That game is. I don't understand. I haven't touched that game since Xbox.
I'm just curious to who the fuck's out there. Like, it must just be kids that like are hitting the age where their parents finally let them buy it or something. Like,
oh, for sure, man. At that point, you've got kids buying that game that weren't even alive when the original one, when the 360.
Probably, you're probably not too far off.
Like, fuck, that's crazy, like, dude.
Kids are driving parents crazy. So if they buy them a console, the first game they're gonna want is Fortnite and then Grand Theft Auto.
Of course, it's crazy.
Forbidden fruit.
Did you guys hear that little rumor that supposedly they were gonna remake San Andreas?
Oh, I love that. If they did that,
No,
that'd be amazing.
That's cool. That's a game that I never beat. Like, I played a lot of it back in the day, but
oh shit, here we go again.
I know it's beloved. What else did we have? Was there anything else that we had on the agenda? Like, my mind just WandaVision. Yeah. So we can say our goodbye to Bobby if you don't want spoilers, and I'm assuming you're not going to want to, because this is like the biggest moment of the show.
I'll just mute and then just send me a message when y'all are done.
I think this will be our last.
I'll just wave at you if you want to just mute me. Just keep your camera on. We'll be quick. Like, it's going to be like super fast.
Okay.
You're all right. Give me a thumbs up when you're muted.
Hold on, I just muted me. Oops.
You can just take your headphones out. It's probably a faster mute, analog mute. All right. So spoiler alert for WandaVision episode 5. I'm going to give the audience a couple seconds to scramble for that pause button. If you haven't watched it, do not. Keep listening. And your spoiler warning is over. All right. So episode 5, fucking Quicksilver. Holy shit. And not just Quicksilver, but Quicksilver from X-Men, Evan Peterson Quicksilver. How wild was that? Did your brain short out? Did you guys just short out? For a second and go like, oh, cool, it's cool. Wait a minute, that's not the right like Quicksilver, because that's what happened to me. Like, my brain like recognized the character and then didn't grasp the full implications for about 2 seconds, and then was awesome.
Hell yeah. Sorry, you go, Zach. You haven't said anything in a bit, man.
Man, my brain instantly went into overdrive, right? Because
yeah,
I'm trying to like think logically, but like my theory hats on. Like, there's so much.
It's the confirmation of the multiverse, right? It has to be. They have to be teasing it, whether or not like he's legit from the multiverse. I think they like, even if he's like an imposter or something, like it has to be them confirming that like those universes are connected somehow, that like somebody would know about this person, right?
I'm hoping so. Yeah, I'm hoping that this is the segue into mutants being able to make their way into, the MCU and everything, because we know that they have the rights to all that stuff now.
Yeah,
and so it would be. It's interesting because she didn't know he was coming, right? Because when she was talking to Vision, she's like, that knock wasn't me.
No, yeah.
And when you open the door, they both recognized each other, right? She was like, she said Pietro, and she said like, what, no love for the brother or something like that. So it's gonna be, it's either one, he's being sent in and by them, sword and everything, and they just, Marvel happened to get Evan Peters to fake us out, or two, yeah, he's fucking Quicksilver, and yeah, they're merging, they're finally giving us what we want.
So I think she did do that shit.
I just think she fucked up somehow and like broke something. That's my theory. Like,
Yeah.
I think she intended to bring her brother back into her perfect little world. I think when she told Vision that's not me, it was a lie. She's clearly been lying to him for quite some time. I think she thought she was bringing her brother back, and I have a feeling like she broke something with all the stuff that she's been messing with, right? Because I mean, this episode reveals that it's been clearly her, right? That's been,
or does it?
I mean, it feels like she's obviously been controlling this because of like, hey, she finds the drone and tosses it out. She gets rid of, unless she's under some sort of control, but clearly like what's happening is being done by Wanda. I mean, it's possible that she is not acting under her own free will, but she's clearly doing it, right? She's clearly creating all that stuff, controlling the people. I did hear about that theory about Agnes or whatever, but I don't know. I think more so like that she was trying to bring her brother back, you know, because they also say, hey, she just recast Pietro. And I think she just messed something up and kind of opened like a portal or something. But what trips me out is like the thing that kind of puts that theory into doubt is, I mean, Quicksilver is acting like that's his sister. Like,
Right.
He's not like confused and like, what the fuck is going on type thing, you know? So there's definitely a lot of questions to be answered for sure. I don't know, man, but it's definitely getting real good. And
Do you think that was the cameo that she said was going to break the internet? Like, can you imagine what the fuck it would be if it was somebody bigger than that?
Ian
Like,
McKellen.
oh
daughter.
my god, yeah, oh my god.
I don't know, man. I don't know, but I don't
But
know.
she said in this episode too, she said, remember when she was like talking to Vision and she was like, he was like, you can't control me. And she was like, can't I? Or whatever. And then earlier she was talking to him and she was like, I don't even know how this all started. I don't remember. So like, she's in control, but is she in control? Right. So
Yeah, I
and
feel
how
like
does Vision have an Infinity Stone in his head?
he
I feel
does
like
it. He
she's
does it.
she's just made that up because when when it slipped for a second, you saw his little voodoo
It
corpse.
was
Like,
missing. Yeah, and it was missing. It was
Yeah.
it was his whole,
No,
he had a
but
hole in
they,
his face.
I think that was her just seeing that because in this episode they've come to the conclusion. Remember when they shot the clothes that everything in there is real. Nothing in there is fake.
Oh, so you're saying that when that was more of a
She just saw
PTSD
that, like
thing.
she turned around and because she was
Oh, I get
maybe
what
she
you're saying.
snapped out of her own thing real quick and turned around and saw Vision dead.
I thought it was like I thought she's been controlling a corpse this whole time.
yeah, well, because they played Voodoo Child at the end of the episode, so it was like it's like a zombie, like a
And
voodoo
then for a
zombie.
second, like she forgot to like keep her powers, like her magic on Vision. I thought that's what it was. If she straight up brought Vision back, that's weird. But there is a little bit of a tie into that because they basically imply that he could have been brought back and he specifically requested not to.
Well, they were backing his ass up in Infinity War. That's all I know.
Well, and he doesn't remember anything prior to
dying, right?
Westfield or whatever it's called.
But that would also be consistent with her like fucking dragging a corpse around, you know? But
yeah, well, they showed her breaking in and getting them, right? So
it's got to be something. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. But as far as breaking the internet, I feel like there's only 2 cameos that could break the internet at this point, or maybe 3, right? And that would be, and I don't know that any of them fit except one, and that would be Robert Downey Jr., one of the Spider-Mans, ideally Tobey Maguire, or Hugh Jackman. I think those are the only 3 cameos
that would be bigger.
that would actually break the internet. Those 3. I can't.
Patrick Stewart.
I don't think so, man. I mean, it would just make
anybody
sense.
from that X-Men universe if they came over.
Well, they just did that.
Yeah,
But
it'd have to be
Quicksilver's
somebody.
not as big as somebody like Wolverine or Patrick Stewart.
Yeah,
I think those 2 would make a lot more sense. It's just when you break the internet, it has to be shocking. I think if you bring in Professor X, it's like, okay, like he's like connecting with her somehow, like that makes sense. That actually fits quite well into this. But you could bring out like fucking Hugh Jackman. Now people are gonna lose their shit, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
I wonder if so. Like it's already confirmed that she's gonna be in the Multiverse of Madness with Doctor Strange. Do you think we'll see him at all in this as a way?
we could, but it ain't breaking the internet. That's for sure.
No, not at all. But she's clearly fucking with the multiverse, and Doctor Strange's new movie has to do with the multiverse. So like,
I think this is gonna like lay
Tie
the
into
groundwork
that.
for that. Sure.
Sure.
All right, let's let poor Bobby back in.
He's not looking at the screen, is he?
Bobby.
He has this minimized, doesn't he?
Yeah, he must. I'm waving like, come back.
Back.
We're good, buddy.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey.
All right.
There
We're
we
back.
go.
So we're gonna wrap it up. That does it for our spoiler section of WandaVision. Catch up, Bobby. You're missing some good stuff. And that does it for this week. Believe it or not, that's been the really like customary about hour 15 that we've been running. So I hope everyone's had a good week, good evening. Anybody want to plug anything before we go?
I do actually. I never really plug anything, but in case anyone, I just realized I've been wearing this shirt that says Dog Rescuer the whole time, and I figure I may as well give some context. So this is actually a T-shirt I got a long time ago from this dog rescue called Bullies and Beyond. All right, and obviously what they do is they rescue dogs, particularly pit bulls, which are outlawed in many counties, in different states. You know, so obviously they get a bad rap. But I highly recommend anybody who's especially an animal lover, to sign up for their mailing list, because they are actually they're not spamming you with stuff. I get very few emails from them, and the only time they do is when there's an actual like a serious dog in serious need. You know, if you can donate and help, like I could maybe count on one hand how many emails I got from them in the past year. So it's you know, they do a lot of good work on their own, but there are some times when they have some dire situations, and any penny helps. You know, because, you know, fortunately people are dicks and do a lot of mean stuff to dogs. So Bullies and Beyond Rescue, definitely recommend that you guys check them out and support in any way that you can. And that's why I'm wearing that shirt.
Yeah, good cause. I'm fully behind that. Maybe if you send me the link, I'll throw it in the YouTube description.
Sure.
So that people can donate if they watch the video.
Tax deductible as well, by the way. They are a 501, 503C, so it's tax deductible. Any donations to them.
Zach, anything you want to plug?
play Light Seekers.
Light Seekers, okay.
My
Light
daughter
Seekers.
just started that game.
Hey,
She's like, Daddy, I love this game. Yeah.
she better not come against Bruce Wayne, or I'm gonna crush her.
Oh my
No
gosh. I'm gonna
remorse.
let her know. You see Bruce Wayne crush her. But no, I will plug my daughter and I might play duos tonight or tomorrow. We've been playing. I hate the way the PS5 won't let us chat. She's on the Switch and I'm on the PS5. It won't record her audio too, which is ridiculous. So I gotta hook up my computer and everything.
What about
But,
getting her? Does she got like a little iPad or a phone or something? You could get a little Discord chat going with her or something.
Yeah, I wondered that. I have OBS, but I just haven't used my computer in God knows how long.
Yeah, you can throw in a audio source and just have it be Discord. You can do multiple audio sources in OBS. Streamlabs I like a little better than OBS.
I didn't realize, like, we started on Twitch and then it wasn't recording, and then we went to YouTube and it was doing the same thing, and I was like, oh man, screw this. But yeah, so it's Robbie Bobby Miller on Twitch and YouTube.
Fantastic. As always, you can find me at twitch.tv/rentalrush. I'll be streaming some Little Nightmares probably tonight. As we're recording this, it's Thursday and Monday. Always have those archived, so if you're listening to this and you want to check that out. And I have a new project that I'm working on. Traditional Rental Rush is on hold right now. A lot of people aren't comfortable with coming and sitting in person for an entire weekend, elbow to elbow. So I'm not really ready to announce it yet, but it will be a YouTube series with hour to hour and a half episodes, and will be a ton of fun. I'm really up in the production game. I'm getting Adobe Premiere for editing. I've got 3 microphones involved, so one for each guest, and a DSLR camera that I'll be recording on. So it should look good and sound good, and hopefully be an enjoyable thing. But probably we'll announce it in a couple of months, and around the time where the episodes will start going out. So there's a little tease. And that does it. So till next time, please give us a like, share, and subscribe, especially the share. Like, that's super helpful. Like, you have no idea. Most of you probably have hundreds of friends on Facebook. Like, that goes a long way. Same thing with Twitter, Instagram, wherever you are. Give us a plug. We really do appreciate it, and it helps. But we love you, and we will see you next week.
Tom Brady.
Valentine's Day.